Hi, Ms. Ruston. So I got your question. Can you tell me if there have been any cost savings since the pandemic due to students not being in facilities? For example, utilities, electrical, heat, water, transportation, supplies, sports, etc. Yeah, there are definitely some savings. I think I'm going to give you a very broad figure because there's two reasons why. One is we're a large operation. It takes us a while to finalize the books at the end of the fiscal year to make final determinations on where we've ended up with particular contracts, what things were utilized, not utilized, those types of things. In addition to that, there's a lot of confusion right now around what are the types of things that the state is ultimately going to reimburse us for. What's going to be the impact on special education funding? What other money might be available through the federal stimulus package that we may or may not be able to utilize? If we utilize that money, are they going to penalize us the next year and take the money away from us? There's a whole bunch of those types of questions. But I can say generally, there is it'll be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. Now, at first, when you hear that, it's like, awesome, great. We can just roll that in next year. Cut the 100,000. Let's not pass the budget this time. We'll cut the 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever it's going to be out of your budget for next year because you don't need it because you had the savings because of COVID. There's a couple problems with that. The first is we're not allowed to, the way the state funding formula works for us, we can't take the new fiscal year for us starts on July 1. The way the system works, if we have, let's say we had $1 million, which we will not have, but if we had $1 million of savings, we would not be in a position to, on July 1, just roll the $1 million into the next year and just use it as part of the next year's school budget. What happens is we have to go through a process where basically, we go through an audit, all these other things. That money we save this year is not available until not this fall, but the fall after. So when we finish up this budget process and we are in kind of the fall of this upcoming year, having conversations about what the school year 2021-22 is going to look like, and we're having that dialogue, it'll include what were the savings that we had this year as part of not doing some of the things we normally would do. So yeah, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but not available to us for whatever the budget we're talking about right now. It will not be available to offset those costs. The other thing that we've had this is the other thing that's complicated about some of these things where we run a surplus. I mean, we are very careful never to run a deficit. So when we run a surplus in a given year, the problem is when you roll into the next, as you roll, eventually what you have is the budget is built around the concept that surplus is going to be there every year thereafter. And of course it's not. So sometimes having a surplus that we roll can actually make things more complicated and look like our tax increases are actually higher as a result. But the short answer is yes, there are savings. We're continuing to try to finalize what that number is going to be, but it won't affect this particular school year that starts in this fall of 2020, and the fiscal year that involves that school year, which starts on July 1st.